that's always a challenge because a lot of our work, it's hard, labor-intensive work. For us, it was important for us that we wanted to remain the platform and continue to grow. We thought we still had some runway.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Raw Selection Private Equity Podcast. On the podcast today is Chad Kalland, an experienced private equity-backed chief executive in the industrial services sector. Chad's completed multiple private equity-backed exits. He's going to talk about them, cultural change, and also integrating acquisitions into your platform. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Chad. Chad, if you could share a brief insight into you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. My name is Chad Kalland, and for the last 11 years, I've been CEO of Vector Environmental Services. Vector is a industrial service firm specializing in hydroblasting, tank cleaning, hydro excavation, things like that, serving customers in the petrochemical, utility markets, oil and gas, primarily along the Gulf Coast of the United States.
Perfect. And what's one mistake that you see either private equity firms or portfolio companies making, and what would you suggest to correct them?
One mistake I think I've seen private equity firms make is coming in and right away making a whole lot of changes before they really understand what makes the operation work. I think the nature of the business is to come in, find efficiencies, get the business to the next sale. Really is kind of the goal of most private equity firms, and I think sometimes that can be rushed, and without understanding the people, the business, and the people in that business. Change is disruptive, and making a lot of changes too early on can really hamper a business's chances for growth.
And with regards to that disruption and those attempted changes, what do you think private equity firms should be doing? You mentioned obviously people being a key attribute of any business, of course, but what are the things that private equity firms should be kind of looking at before they decide to make their raft of changes?
One, I think, is to understand the strengths of the people in the organization. Not all businesses are the same, right? You may have an org chart, and the titles for those org charts are pretty standard across the board. But the people who sit in those boxes all come with their own special skills, their own special gifts, and also their own challenges. And really understanding that part of the business, I think, is the most important part, right? We can all look at a P&L, we can all look at a financial statement and understand how the business is doing. But really understanding the people in the business is what you understand what a business is about. Okay.
And you've worked with businesses or acquired companies that could transition from from founder-owned family-type companies into a private equity environment.
Yes.
What have you done about the steps you've taken to implement cultural change from that transition of owner to PE-backed?
Yeah, I think it starts with diligence, right? It starts with, looking when you're evaluating a business for acquisition, really understanding, doing the same thing that I just talked about, really understanding who the people in that business are, what motivates them, how they operate. So you get a sense of what the culture of that organization is. And that helps with integration because you can then know, if there are things about that organization that can help yours, right? If you're the platform, at Vector we do a lot of things right, but we don't do everything right? There are things that we could improve on. So understanding what other companies are doing that can help you, right? I think that's an important part because then it doesn't feel like a takeover. It really feels like a merger, right? When you incorporate some of the things that the company you're acquiring do, some of their processes, some of the if they have a special holiday party or whatever it is, right? Whatever that they do that's their special sauce, bring it into the platform. It certainly makes the integration a little less complicated and difficult.
So when that integration is happening, what tends to be the case is most founder-owned businesses family companies, not all, but they tend to be a little sleepier, is usually a term used, slower, not the fast-paced of a private equity-backed nature.
No.
How are you kind of bringing that type of urgency and pace into the companies that you're acquiring?
What we've done is we bring the ownership of the organization that we acquire, we bring them into the leadership team. So they understand that they understand the pace, right? They're part of setting the pace. And they realize that what used to work, the decision-making processes and those things that used to work for them as a small, privately run business no longer work the same. Like we have to make decisions quickly. We have to evaluate circumstances on a faster basis, and being able to pivot quicker is just part of the process. So if they're sitting in the room when those decisions are made and when those discussions are going on, they're more able to communicate that with their teams.
Perfect. And talking about moving from cultural to actually integration of these companies, which is something that's not done as well inside of private equity and outside of it. What's your kind of playbook and mindset around how you're effectively integrating add-on acquisitions into private equity-backed platforms?
Yeah, some of the things I've already talked about. Really figuring out what the target does better than you, right? Mm-hmm. Because change is disruptive, right? And one of the acquisitions we've made, they had the office manager had been there 15 years, so anything new was going to be disruptive to her and the way she did things. So giving her the opportunity to make changes to Vecta really helped ease her mind, right? It helped her to really buy into the organization, because she realized she was part of it, right? We weren't just coming in telling her how she could do her job better. We were really giving her the opportunity to tell us what we could do better. Doing those things, and it seems like it's a small thing, but doing those things really help create the feeling of one organization rather than just a platform company buying up add-ons.
And what's some of the friction that you've had? What's some of the challenges, the things that you wish you'd done better when you've had these integrations?
What if we're adding a service line? I think it's important if you're growing a business to figure out, you clearly, if you're to the point where you've met with you partner with private equity and you're growing a business, you're doing something well, right? You found your niche in the market and you're doing something well. But an important part of growth is figuring out what else you can add, what service lines you can add to increase your market share and your wallet share within a customer base, right? When you're adding those onto your organization, making sure that they're part of the operation and not just a separate entity, right? Just a separate division off by itself that does this specialty service. I think that we've made some missteps along the way in that. We are an industrial service firm. We made an acquisition of a company that did a related service, but not the exact same thing. And we could have done a better job of really integrating those two services together. We got there eventually, but it took us probably longer than it could have had we really brought it into the fold earlier on.
Sorry to interrupt. Just a quick mention of a long-standing partnership with Grata. As you'll probably know, the private equity scene is constantly evolving, and deal flow is moving now to proprietary and data-driven processes. Grata provides you with the data and information of over 7 million private companies. So if you're looking to improve your proprietary deal flow and improve the data access, then reach out to Grata today. Now back to the podcast. With the human capital intensity of your platform, how are you keeping, the technicians, the engineers, the service guys, how do you keep them enthused with all this change, all this new process, that fundamentally they're facing the customer and doing the service, whether that be on a B2B or B2C level? what are you doing to keep them kind of happy as the front line of the business?
Yeah, that's always a challenge, because a lot of our work, I mean, it's hard, labor-intensive work, and we're working, like I said earlier, we're along the Gulf Coast of the United States, and for about 6 months of the year, it's unbearably hot, and these crews are working inside of these facilities wearing chemical protective suits, and it's hard work. So keeping them engaged is always a challenge, but we try to do it by developing our employees, not just their skills on the job site, but really their skills in all areas of life. We do, leadership and management development, where we can, try to take them and show them that there's a path beyond, the job that they're doing today. We can lay out a footpath that, down the road, this is your way to get to a different position in the organization. And not everyone is interested in that. A lot of people love the job they do. We're fortunate that most of them love the job they do, and that's what they want to do. But continuously developing our employees, giving them opportunities to grow both professionally and personally, is how we've been able to retain, most of our employees.
Because that's the tough part of your type of business. It's the same in mine. Anything that's human capital intensive, the hard part is the retention, the upskilling, and the quality metrics around people and ensuring that. So you've put in kind of leadership development programs for them. You've put in career paths for them. You've looked at how you can help them, make them better and improve them with regards to that. And has that been pretty successful from a retention perspective and I suppose attraction as well, I suppose?
Yeah, it has. We still struggle in our industry. It's not just specific to us. In our industry, we get people who are trying to figure out where they're going in their life, right? It's what path do they want to go on? It's not industrial services is not, you don't go to college and major in industrial services, right? So, most of the turnover that we see is in the first 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
If we can get someone in, get them onboarded and trained and get them out on these projects working safely, once they're here, if we can get them to stay 90 days and they kind of get a sense of what the job is and what the company is, they tend to stay. But that first 90 days is a challenge because people will cycle in and out. But we believe we're doing a better job than the industry standard, and it's still a challenge.
Okay. And your career so far with this platform has led to 2 successful exits, both by private equity.
Yes.
What are some of the learnings that you've had, maybe from the first one that you implemented in the second one, and then from the second one that you wish to implement in the third?
Yeah. So, the first one was a complete change. We were, Kenny Rouse started the business. I joined him, shortly after. And we were, the decisions, every decision, came through us, and it was really, our CFO, Selena, if we had the money in the bank and we needed something, we could get it. Did with private equity and realizing that other people's money are at stake and there are more stakeholders involved in the decision-making process, was a challenge and an adjustment that we had to make. But we were fortunate, we had a great partner in the first round, and we were able to within a few years make another successful exit. In the second one, it really was about, for us, taking the lessons that we had learned with our first partner, and then finding the right partner for us. We went through a process and we met with a lot of different groups, and when it came down to selecting the right partner, a lot of times it's easy to just take the highest offer and go with that. But really evaluating the offers and what all they entail and who's going to be the right partner moving forward. How is this partner going to help me get to that third, right? I think that's the most important part. And we were very fortunate to partner with the group that we did.
And you spoke about finding the right partner there. What was some of the criteria that you considered that obviously fundamentally made the list for who was the right partner?
Yeah, a big one is, when you get to that stage, you kind of it can kind of go a couple different ways, right? You can partner with someone who wants you to remain the platform and continue to grow, or you could go the strategic route where you become part of an even larger organization. And they both have their benefits, right? For us, it was important for us that we wanted to remain the platform and continue to grow. We thought we still had some runway. We still had some plans and some visions on the things we wanted to do. So, we had a couple options on the table. One was a strategic. One was, us remaining as a platform, and we decided to go that route. But I think that's important. I think if someone gets to that point and they're ready to exit the business, maybe strategic is the right way to go, right? Because they've already got the management team in place. Most of the time, they have all the systems in place, the infrastructure to support the organization. So they may not need the founder or the leader of that organization to stay on as long. Get through the transition and then make the exit. For us and our team, we wanted to stay on and continue to run the business.
What's some of the key biggest return on investments that you completed to drive your exit multiple higher? What's some of the projects that you really narrowed down in because you thought, yeah, this will definitely increase things?
Yeah. So for us, we offer a kind of a broad band of services, really focusing on the services with the highest profit margin and investing in those. Some of our services are revenue generators, but at a lower margin. So if we could maximize the lower revenue, higher margin portions of our business, it helped elevate the multiple. Another thing that we did is in the acquisitions that we made sure that they complemented our service, right? And that they had a customer base that we weren't currently serving. So we could take that service, layer it in with our existing customers, take the services that we traditionally provided and offer that to their customer base. So we really, we bought healthy, successful companies, and then we're able to add organic growth on top of those as well. And that just, that's just value creation.
So, Chad, what do you read? What do you watch? What do you listen to that you recommend others on the podcast to check out?
Yeah, I read a lot of, books on leadership, organizational development, personal development. I really like to understand what makes people tick. I think that, as a leader in any organization, that's the most important thing is understanding your people. And if I can understand kind of, how people think, what motivates people, it makes me a better leader. So I spend a lot of time reading. I'm an early riser, so most of the days I'm up before my family, and I try to take advantage of that time and read every morning. Don't watch a whole lot of TV. I when I do, it's either it's news or sports or whatever's on, but I don't. No shows I'm binging right now. And then I listen to podcasts, and again, a lot of it is leadership. I think there's one of my favorite books is a book, Reboot, Leadership in the Art of Growing Up. It's by Jerry Kalland. Jerry Kalland also has a podcast called Reboot. So I listen to things like that where I can, learn and grow. Podcasts where they're talking about leadership development, mentorship. That's kind of my passion, is helping people grow. So anything I can kind of absorb to help me get better at that.
Is there any you mentioned Reboot, is there any other podcasts you'd recommend, or equally any books that you've read that you think others should pick up?
So there are a couple others that I really enjoy. One is On Purpose with Jay Shetty, which is a great leadership podcast, I think, and really, he talks to a lot of people in different industries about personal development and professional development, and also a bit of optimism with Simon Sinek, which I think is, I think all of his books are great. I think he's got a great perspective on people. So those are a couple I enjoy.
Yeah, Simon Sinek's just very
Yeah.
Very, very good. And if anybody wishes to reach out to you, Chad, how best do they get in touch, please?
The easiest way to get me is probably LinkedIn. You can always get me on LinkedIn and just Chad Kalland. The good news is there's not a lot of Kallands out there, so it's easy to find me. It's direct message or a connection request on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so I usually respond pretty quickly.
Perfect. Well, Chad, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast, sharing your insights into your exits, acquisition transitions, and also cultural change. So thank you very much for coming on board.
Thank you, Alex. I really enjoyed it, man. Thanks.
And for everybody listening, thank you very much for tuning in yet again to the Private Equity Podcast. So till the next time, keep smashing it, and thank you very much for listening.